All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever felt that pull towards something bigger, That search for meaning, for a real purpose that just goes beyond the day-to-day grind? Well, you're definitely not alone. It seems like everyone is looking for that sense of connection, but the old maps, the traditional playbooks, they don't always seem to fit anymore.
There's this philosopher, Charles Taylor, who just absolutely nails what it's like to be alive right now. He says we live in a secular age, and what he means is that for maybe the first time in history, belief isn't the default setting. It's a choice. This has nothing to do with being for or against religion. It's just recognizing that the game has changed. The spiritual path isn't a single paved highway anymore. It's this vast landscape with infinite trails.
And that new reality leaves all of us with a really profound question, doesn't it? If all the traditional answers are now just one option on the menu, where do you turn? How do we build a life that feels deep and connected and, well, transcend it? That's exactly what we're going to explore together. So, let's start with the first major path on our map, the journey inward. This is the quest to find what's sacred, not in some building or ancient text, but right inside the landscape of our own minds, our own consciousness. It's the path of looking within. A huge part of this inward journey is mindfulness. And what I love about this definition is just how simple it is. See, it's not about emptying your mind or reaching some crazy mystical state. It's literally just about paying attention. It's the radical act of actually showing up for your own life, right here, right now. So, okay, how do you even start? The spiritual teacher Ram Dass gives these wonderfully practical steps. This isn't about building some giant elaborate altar. It's just about setting aside a physical space that sends a signal to your brain saying, hey, this little corner, this is for quiet, for reflection, for going inward. It makes this abstract idea totally tangible. And this just beautifully captures the power of that inner world. This ancient wisdom from the Tao Te Ching, it isn't just pretty poetry. It's a really radical statement about where true knowledge comes from. It suggests that the deepest truths of the entire universe are actually mirrored inside our own awareness. And this is where that inner work becomes so transformative. Anthony DeMello points out something huge. We spend so much energy trying to change the world around us, trying to change other people so that we can be happy. But the real power, the real leverage, comes from shifting our own perception. When you change your inner world, your experience of the outer world just fundamentally changes right along with it. But, the journey inward isn't the only path. For a lot of us, and maybe for all of us at different times in our lives, meaning isn't found in solitude. It's discovered in that messy, beautiful, sometimes challenging space between people. This is the path of connection. The writer Adrienne Murray Brown gives us this perfect modern mantra for this path. And notice the shift here. It's not about having a huge network or being popular. It's not about critical mass. It's about critical connections. The depth and the quality of our relationships, that's where we find real strength, real resilience to get through life. So let's just put these two paths side by side for a second. On one hand, you have this profound wisdom that comes from going inward. And on the other, you have the incredible strength that comes from deep connection with others. The most important thing to see here is that these are not mutually exclusive. They're just two different, equally valid routes to a meaningful life. Marianne Williamson takes this whole idea of connection a step further. She frames love not just as some feeling, but as a spiritual practice. Think about that for a second. What if the most profound, transformative experiences, what we might even call miracles, are simply the natural result of a life that's consciously dedicated to giving and receiving love? And this is where the rubber really meets the road, connecting spirituality directly to our everyday lives. Your job, your friendships, your family, they're not separate from your spiritual life. They are your spiritual life. When we start to see them as ways to channel a higher purpose, to put more love and healing into the world, then absolutely everything gets transformed. Okay, so we've looked at these two paths, the journey inward and the journey of connection. Now let's see how they echo this timeless wisdom from all across the ages. Because as modern as our search feels, we're really walking on a very, very well-trodden path. What's so incredible is how these different traditions, separated by oceans and centuries, are all kind of saying the same thing. Rumi tells us to use love to get beyond ourselves. Emerson talks about accepting the fundamental balance of life. And Robin Wall Kimmerer reminds us to reconnect with nature. You see the pattern? Whether it's through love or balance or nature, they are all pointing us beyond our small, separate selves and toward a much bigger, more interconnected reality. And here is this beautiful paradox that you find in so much spiritual wisdom.
In our world, which is totally obsessed with gathering more information, more data, the Tao Te Ching reminds us that true understanding often comes from letting go. It comes from unlearning, from embracing simplicity, and from shedding everything that's just not necessary.
So, whether we journey inward through our own minds or outward through our connections, where is this all heading? All of these paths, both ancient and modern, they really seem to point toward one common destination, a life of transcendence.
So what does that kind of life even look like? Well, first, it's built on awareness, a deep moment-to-moment presence. That's the foundation we build with practices like mindfulness. Then, on top of that, comes connection. You start to move beyond this illusion that we're all separate individuals, and you begin to experience a profound sense of belonging to everything. And finally, the force that holds it all together is love. And we're not just talking about an emotion here. We're talking about an active state of being, something that guides all of our actions and becomes our ultimate purpose. And this is transcendence. It's that experience of moving beyond the ego's small, limited, physical-only view of reality. It's recognizing, just as Williamson says, that we are part of this vast interconnected oneness, a reality that is mysterious and, at the same time, deeply and profoundly true. So, we end right back where we started, with a choice. In this age of infinite options, the journey to a meaningful life is deeply personal. It might be the quiet path of introspection, or the vibrant path of deep connection, or, more likely, some unique trail that blends them both. The only real question left is, which path is calling you?